Welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. We will get to our main topic here in about 5-7 minutes. Delano Squires was on C-SPAN yesterday, and some liberal nut job called him a DEI hire, and Delano handled it masterfully. So we'll talk with Delano about that. But before we do that, I wanted to do something. We're going to do a check-in once a week on our guy, Pastor Corey Brooks, who came and spoke this year at Roll Call. You guys know Corey, the rooftop pastor. He spoke at the RNC. He spoke at Roll Call this past year. Has an amazing church right there in Chicago in the heart of O Block. He's doing a walk across America. Corey is, and Corey, for those of you who don't remember, Corey and I went to Ball State at the same time years and years ago. And so it's a natural connection between Corey and myself and what he's doing with his church in Chicago. But they got this thing, Project Hood, going on where they're building a community center right there in the heart of O Block. And part of this walk across America is raising money to complete this project. And so once a week, we want to check in with Corey to see how his walk is going. I think he's about 10 days in. Corey, welcome to the Harmony Channel. What city you in? How far along are you right now in this walk?
Well, thanks so much, Jason. I appreciate it. We're actually 31 days in, so this is day 31. We started September the 1st in New York Times Square, and we have made it to Philadelphia. And today we're on a neighborhood called Kensington, where there's a lot of despair, a lot of drug usage, a lot of hopelessness. And we're just sharing the gospel, talking and witnessing to people, trying to bring back revival, trying to bring God back into people's lives. And so we're just walking and hopefully some people will buy into the American dream, but that's what we're doing now. We're in Philadelphia, on our way to Lancaster, and then on our way to Baltimore and DC.
So how many miles are you walking a day?
So we walk 12.5 miles a day. That's the goal. Monday through Friday. We take Saturdays and Sundays off for worship and for events. But Monday through Fridays, we're stepping and we're trying to get it in.
And so 30 days into, and then talk to us about what the goals are, the fundraising, where people can go to support you, what you're trying to accomplish.
So our goal is to raise $25 million, and we're doing it for 4 reasons. Number one, we want to pay off the center that we're building. We want it to be debt-free. We've raised $40 million already. It's a $47 million facility. We want to raise the last $7 million so that it's debt-free. Secondly, we want to start a school for boys in our neighborhood. The reading proficiency is 4%. The math proficiency is 6%. Our boys are in hopeless situations, and so it's up to us to do something about it. We're not waiting on government to come in and solve and fix the problems. We're going to do it ourselves. Thirdly, we want to plant Project Hoods in urban and rural areas where neighborhoods are in need of a comeback, and that's what the walk is all about. We believe that every neighborhood, every block can make a comeback. And then fourth, we want to start an endowment, the seed money to start an endowment so we never have to depend on government funds. Our goal is to have an organization that does not have to use any government money.
How are you holding up physically, Corey?
Physically, I'm doing good. It's the mental part, mentally getting up every morning and forcing yourself to get back at it. But physically, I'm doing pretty good. I tell everyone the first 2 miles and the last 2 miles are the hardest. So once you get going, it's good to go. But then that last 2 is hard to, it's hard to get it to cross the finish line. But 12.5 is the goal, and we're going to get it in.
What time do you normally start in the morning? What time do you normally wrap up?
So our goal is to start at 7 a.m. the walk, and then we do about 3 or 4 hours. And then we take a break for lunch and for phone calls, for donor meetings, for things like that. Then we start again at 1 o'clock, and then we normally finish up around about 4 or 5.
And so you're in Pennsylvania. Give me
Yes.
the schedule. How long is this going to go on? Are you going to walk during the winter? How long is this project?
I will complete this walk 1 year from now, at Santa Monica Pier. So I'll be walking for 1 whole year, nonstop. I'll be away from Chicago. We're going to be walking from, once we get to DC, we'll go down to Atlanta. And then from Atlanta, we'll cross over and go south through Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, all of that, Texas. And we're going to go that route. So we avoid the Midwestern winters. So it's a whole year. September the 19th is the target date of 2026 to be finished. And people can go to Project Hood and find out how to follow us, how to donate, and how to see about the work. ProjectHood.org.
Did you mention Tennessee? Are you coming through Nashville? Yeah. Are you coming through Memphis?
We're coming through Nashville and Memphis. We have a detour event where we stop where we're going to be in Mississippi, and we're going to stop there, go up to Nashville, do an event, go over to Memphis and do an event, then go back down to Mississippi. So we have 5 detour events where we stop our walk, go to those cities, do events, and then go back to our walk. But definitely Nashville is on the agenda and Memphis is on the agenda, and I'm looking forward to it.
Last thing, now that we've unpacked all that and people will be familiar when we bring you back on next week, I want to ask more philosophical question, then I'm gonna let you get out of here and get back to work. But what are you learning about yourself, about God, as you take this walk?
You know, I was thinking about that today as I'm in Kensington, where there's so much open drug dealing. People are addicted, almost leaning, broken to the ground, bent over. And I see the hopelessness and despair. And one of the things that I realize is that Jesus Christ really is the only hope that we have. We got to make sure that we get Jesus into the lives of people and restore salvation into everyday walk of life. And if we don't do that, America is doomed. Every city that I go to, whether it's New York, Newark, Philadelphia, all of these cities, I see so many people who have fallen away from God, so many people who are in destitute situations because of the depravity, and sin is prevalent, unharnessed, and running rampant, and Jesus is definitely needed. So I'm learning more so that I got to do even more witnessing, more praying, more conversions. You know, even though I'm walking on this walk, I want to do some baptisms. So we bought a baptismal pool, a mobile baptismal pool. We baptized a couple of people today. 3 people received Christ, and that's really what I want to do. I want to restore hope and restore revival across America, and not just on the south side of Chicago, but all of these urban areas. If I could just strike a match and maybe a fire start.
Corey, we'll see you next week. The one thing I think that I'm seeing is we're actually going to see less of you next week, because it looks like these first 30 days have dropped about 10, 15 off of you already. And so
I don't want you to,
we'll see you next week.
Leave you behind.
Yeah, I know you put some pressure on me. Corey, thank you so much for making the time. Look forward to checking back in with you next week. Just very quick, tell people where to go to support you.
Go to ProjectHood.org. That's HOOD.org, ProjectHood.org. And Jason, thank you so much for being a blessing to us. We really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing y'all next week.
Thank you, Corey. All right, let's move on to Delano. Mr. Squires, welcome back to the show, or welcome to Harmony. Delano, I'm going to play the clip first, and then I'm going to have you explain how you got here, how you got there, and what was going on. Here's Delano. I saw this on Delano's social media yesterday, and it caught my attention. Here's Delano on C-SPAN. Let's play the clip.
My last question to him, since he's a member of the Heritage, he's also, I guess, a promoter of the Project 2025. And I would ask him, are you a DEI hire for Heritage, since that seems to be...
All right, Anwar.
Let me answer the second question first, right? In terms of being a DEI hire, there's no part of me that believes that. I have the respect of my colleagues. My work stands for itself. As I said, I've been writing about these issues and thinking about these issues since I was 15, but even in official capacity for over a decade. But it's interesting that some of the same people who say that black folks need DEI and celebrate DEI will use DEI as a way to insult black people with whom they disagree. I find that actually odd, quite interesting.
So what was the invitation? Why were you on C-SPAN? What were you talking about? And how did it lead to that question?
Sure. So Jason, I recently wrote a report called Moving Beyond Moynihan, which talks about the Moynihan report, obviously, which was written 60 years ago. But the subtitle is A New Plan to Revive Marriage and Rebuild the Black Family. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about for the last 4 years on the show that I research in my day job at the Heritage Foundation, I put down on paper. So I received, C-SPAN reached out to the Heritage Comms team and say, hey, would Delano be willing to come on the show, the Washington Journal, and talk about his report? So that's what I did. So I came on. The host was very gracious. She asked some really good questions. It's clear that she had read the report. So that was the reason I was there. And we talked about the report, and then at a certain period of time, they go to live Q&A. And at that point, they open up the lines and people will call with their questions and or comments. And this was, one of the questions that was asked. And actually, this came at the tail end. The person you heard was actually asking a question more so about government aid and didn't the Biden administration do many things to lift families out of poverty and they cut childhood poverty. So he was really making a point about the importance of government aid to support low-income families. And then at the end, he stuck in that part about Heritage Project 2025 and asking if I was a DEI hire.
So it caught my attention because I think last week I was talking about DEI and why I believe it needs to end. And people have been, because Charlie Kirk was so anti-DEI, people see this as a line in the sand and a racial issue. And there seems to be a belief among some black people that we can't survive or excel without DEI or affirmative action. I completely reject that. And so what do you say to the people? Because I think the man's question was coming from like, don't you understand you're a DEI hire and you wouldn't have a job without DEI? I reject that. It's a myth. It's something that's been used to mentally demoralize us, that without someone doing you a favor, you couldn't even exist here in America. Anyway, your reaction.
Yeah, and I think he was trying to take a swipe. Right now, he phrased it as a question, but I think obviously he was trying to take a swipe. It didn't bother me. I mean, that sort of stuff don't bother me at all. But I to your point, those three letters put together, DEI, which, Jason, is a fairly recent phenomenon. You can't go to any major publication in the year 2010 and find any article with the capital letters D, E, and I put together in that way. So this is a fairly recent phenomenon. I think the left has been very effective at painting the picture or making the case to particularly to black folks that is the only way that we can get into college, that we can get jobs, that we can excel. And it is one of those things that I find very offensive. But I'm more disappointed that so many people have accepted that lie, that if there aren't DEI initiatives, then I can't get a job at this particular place. And I think what conservatives tend to say is that no, to the extent that DEI means lowering standards in perpetuity for different groups of people, or for prioritizing, immutable characteristics, a person's skin color or their sex, as it relates to hiring and or even sometimes firing, that is not something that is acceptable, legal, or desirable in such a large country, that we have. I will say this though, and I think you've seen this as well. Much of this comes from the left, obviously, where they want to discredit a black person with whom they disagree, as I said. But every once in a while, there's some voices on the right who will say the same thing to black conservatives at times, and to say, oh, you only had that position in the conservative ecosystem because conservatives are looking for black voices to say things that white conservatives are looking for black voices to say things that they want to say but can't say, and that's why they go and get somebody, like you. And I reject that premise, obviously, on both sides of the aisle, because ultimately, as I said, a man's work is going to have to stand on its own, and that's the way I think people should be judged.
I hope I can unpack this in real time because I wasn't prepared for this, but I think that my career, I think that your career proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that people that hire you are in the pursuit of excellence and in the pursuit of, hey, how can I make my company, agenda, narrative, project excellent, the best that it can be. And that's why you get the opportunity. But I do think there is the way the world has been constructed, the way social media has been constructed, that there was a reality of like, hey man, if someone's going to promote biblical values, the way the system's rigged, as a white man, if I promote biblical values, it's immediately going to be dismissed as racist. Whereas if a black person promotes biblical values, you can't just dismiss it as racism instantly. You can call him an Uncle Tom, you can call him a coon, you can call him the black face of white supremacy, but you just can't call it racist. And so I don't even see it as bad strategy the way the thing was rigged. Now, again, I've moved into this space and been very strong about like, nah, man, you white dudes need to stand out here 10 toes down and stand on your beliefs and values and quit apologizing for it, blah, blah, blah. But it's no different than, and I'm going to try to land this plane with a question. It's like I argued, Vodi Bakum was the biblical foundation for being against DEI. That he gave, as a Christian minister, he would give you the biblical explanation of why you could be against DEI. And the fact that he was black making that argument made it even more effective. And that's why I'm, for me, who had these instincts, but when Vodi stood there as a minister behind a pulpit and basically argued all the same things and wrote the book Fault Lines and other books that backed up my instincts and gave me like, man, I know I'm in good standing with God as I make this stand because Vodi's giving me that. I think all that's important. And so I don't even know if I have a great question. I'm just kind of rambling, but your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this present moment, right, a lot of these things get blended. This is like almost like an Arnold Palmer, right? So there's a mix of iced tea, there's a mix of lemonade. Sometimes you can't decipher what you're tasting at a particular moment. And when I say that, I'm talking about the biblical worldview things, as well as the political things. And so when I say that there's a mix, it's like I will hear let me give an example, right? Because you mentioned Vodi, and obviously somebody who I learned a tremendous amount from. There are conservatives who were cheering Vodi when he was smacking down a lot of the social justice stuff in 2020, smacking down racial collectivism, smacking down unbiblical categories when it comes to race, smacking down the notion that you blend sin and skin together in such a way where you generalize and demonize an entire group of people who are doing the exact same thing today, only in a different direction on the right? And you may see some of these people, I see my algorithm is set up in such a way where I see them engaging in some of the same behaviors. Now, we white people are the victims, right? There are black sins. So when I'm not talking about an individual person, I'm talking about the sins of black culture, which I can use from my state that has, 2-3% of black folks. I am generalizing, and some would say demonizing, but I'll just say generalizing an entire group of people certainly I'm collectivizing, right? I'm talking in terms of tribal collectives. And I see that. And to me, one of the characteristics of a biblical worldview that is most lacking in today's sort of political ecosystem is the desire for equal weights and measures, is a balanced scale. So I'm not talking about specific talking points. I'm saying whatever is the standard that I use when I'm talking about my tribe, that's the standard that I use when I'm talking about somebody else's tribe, knowing full well that people when I'm talking to outsiders, they tend to be far more defensive than when I'm talking to insiders. That's human nature across the board. If you want to get Catholics defensive, let their criticism come from a Protestant. If you want to get Americans defensive, let the criticism come from the CCP. If you want to get Black folks defensive, let the criticism come from white people. And if you want to get white people defensive, let the criticism come from Black folks. This is human nature. But what I see, and this goes back to even the questions about DEI, is that sometimes people say, well, I'm going to engage in this type of behavior, right? But I'm going to call it out in other people even while I practice it myself. So yes, I'm all for bringing a biblical worldview to cultural issues. But more than anything, I think we need just weights and equal measures. And that's the part that I don't think is as evident today.
I've been getting emails from you or someone promoting an event or your book, or
Yeah, that's me.
because your book is that's coming directly from you.
Yeah, that's for me. Yeah, that's for me.
I didn't know if that was automated or what. Could you update us on what's going on with your book and the project you're involved with as it relates to the family?
Sure. So the emails were about an event called Black Family Blueprint that I had at the Heritage Foundation 2 weeks ago, actually, that looked at the 60th anniversary of the Moynihan Report and charted a course forward. It was really a call to action, again, to revive marriage and rebuild the Black family. So it was an invitation to the event, either in person or online, virtually. And I had 3 different panels that talked about raising this issue as one of national importance. I had another panel talking about improving relationships between Black men and Black women, and then another one about the role that institutions can play in creating a culture of marriage. So I sent those. We had the event, had a good turnout. We had, Ian Rowe was there, Calvin Roberson, Pastor Cal, for people who've ever watched Married at First Sight. We had the Christian rapper, artist, and man of many talents, Sho Baraka. He was there. Pastor John K. Jenkins, who's a very prominent pastor in the DC area, was there. And Bob Woodson. Right?
No bad.
So we had
no Bad Bunny. You didn't have Bad Bunny.
No, no Bad Bunny. So it was a good time. I did a short presentation on the report that I talked about earlier in the segment, and did a short presentation on the issue and how we move forward. So those are the emails. The emails weren't connected to my book, which, Lord willing, is coming out next year. And I finally have a date, June 16th, 2026. They were connected to this event, this report, and the work that I would like to see moving forward. So no, that was me. That was me typing away and sticking in email addresses and inviting people out. Oh, Jason,
Delano,
one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Real quick. One of the things that one point that I want to press home about this particular event and the work that I'm doing that ties back to some of what we were talking about, particularly on race, is that the biggest difference between the work that I'm doing, the work that Moynihan was thinking about in 1965, or what we've seen in the last few decades, is that my calls for marriage and family revival in the Black community are primarily to Black leaders. It is to the legacy civil rights organizations, the racial justice organizations, the Black churches, HBCUs, the commentators, the pundits, the podcasters. It is to those people in the Black community. And the reason why is quite simple. I believe that we have the cultural, the social, the financial, the political, and I certainly hope the spiritual capital to address the issues in our community. And why I think this ties back to the point that you were making is because oftentimes, particularly on the right, you will see some on the left, but often on the right, you will see conservative commentators, often white conservative commentators, telling Black people, this is what you need to do to improve your community. And I'm not even saying that some of the things aren't correct. But again, what I'm saying is, if you want a message, particularly one that feels critical, to make its way through, the best chance of that happening is when it's coming from a friendly insider and not someone who is perceived as an unfriendly outsider. So that's why I'm all about, and this is the same spirit of responsibility that I've had from day one. I want the people who are in the community, who experience the issues, who know the institutions, know the culture, know the cultural nuances. I want them to be the main ones saying, this is what we need to do. So that's the main difference between what I'm doing and what people in the past are doing. It's not a knock or criticism. I just want to plant that flag firmly in the ground so that as I'm speaking, people understand who I'm speaking to, what I'm talking about, and they understand why I'm focusing on certain issues. And in this season of my life, there may be other issues that I'm not addressing as much or with as much consistency.
Delano, thank you for the time. Appreciate you. Looking forward to your book, June 16th. We'll play Harmony, and we'll see you next time.
Up so divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall.